So far, we managed to write code which loads notes once the user is logged in. Now, we're going to write code which will enable our user to create a new note. So if we look at the final app, to create a new note, we need to click on Add Note. And straight away, we can see the text box where we can write the content of our new note. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to write some JavaScript code inside our JavaScript file. So once we click on Add Notes, we're going to need to execute some code. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So first of all, we need to click on that button, add a new note, okay, or add note. So we're going to select that button using its ID, which is add note. All right, and then we're going to use the click function. So the click function is going to take as a parameter a function, all right, which we will define as following. So first of all, we're going to send an AJAX call. So that AJAX call is going to be sent to the PHP file create note. So that file is going to run a query which will create a new note in the database. If everything goes fine, then we're going to return the note ID. If there is an error, then we're going to return error. Okay, so this file is going to return either a number, which is the ID of the newly created note, or error. All right, so let's write our AJAX code. So the syntax is $.AJAX. Okay. And inside curly brackets, we're going to place all the parameters of our AJAX call. So the first parameter is going to be the URL. So in our case, we're sending the call to create notes.php. Okay. The second parameter is going to be the success parameter, which will tell us what we're going to do if the call is successful. So we're going to execute the following function. We're going to give it a parameter. Let's call it data. You can call it whatever you want. So that parameter is going to store whatever this file is going to return to us. Okay, so as we said earlier, it's going to return either error or the ID of the newly created note. So let's start with the first case. So if we get error, what we're going to do, and then else, what we're going to do. So if data equals error, then we're going to show an alert message. So basically, we'd like to show that message at the top, right there, or right there. Okay. So basically, what we need to do is go back to our main page logged in file. Okay. And then right at the beginning of that section, add a div for our alert message. So we're going to create a collapsible alert message, as we covered in the Bootstrap chapter. So let's add a comment there. So that's going to be a div. Okay. So let's give it an ID, alert, for example, and let's style it using a couple of classes, alerts and alert danger. And also we need the collapse class. Okay. All right, and then we're going to need a times symbol like that one, okay, which will enable the user to close the message. So we're going to place it inside a link. Okay, covered all this earlier actually. So, and then inside the link we're going to use the times entity, which is ampersand times, yeah, like that. Okay, and inside the link we're going to add a few attributes. So let's give it a class close. Okay, we need this one, and also we need the data dismiss attributes, where we're going to specify what element we're going to close. So in our case, it's going to be the element of ID alert. So we're going to place alert there. Okay, and then right after the link, so we're going to place a paragraph. Okay, and let's give it an ID, alert content. So that's where we're going to place the content of our alert message. Okay, so let's save this and go back to our Ajax call. So if we get an error, okay, then we're going to change the content of our alert message by accessing the paragraph, okay, of ID alert content. Okay, now we're going to change the text inside the paragraph, and also we're going to show the alert message. So we can access the alert message using its ID, which is alerts, and then we can use some animation like fade in. Okay, so the content could be something like there was an issue inserting the new nodes in the database. Okay. All right. Now, if the call is successful, the create nodes file is going to return the ID of the new node. So once the node has been created, okay, with empty content, we're going to have a text area like this. So once the user starts typing something in there, then the content of the new node is going to get updated. So we need to know which nodes we're talking about so that we can update the right nodes in the nodes table. So we're going to need the ID of the nodes, okay, so that we can edit that specific node. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a variable where we're going to store the ID of that node. So at the beginning, when we define variables, we're going to have a variable that we're going to call active node. Okay, so that refers to the nodes which is active. Okay, in our case, that's the new node. If you're trying to edit a certain node in the final app, then the active node is the node that we're editing. Okay. So at the beginning, we're going to set that to 0, but now, if the Ajax call is successful, we're going to update that variable, which is active node, to the ID of the new node. So active node equals data. Okay. So again, data, this time if the AJAX call is successful, is going to be the ID of the nodes. So you've got now the ID of the nodes. Okay. Now we are going to show a text area like this. So before we show the text area, we're going to make sure it's blank. So we're going to access the text area. We have only one text area inside our document, so we can just access it using text area just like that. Okay. No need to use an ID or anything like that. Okay. So we're going to change the content of the text area to blank. So we're going to use the val method, and we're going to set that to an empty string. Okay. Now we will need to show the text area. Okay. And also we'll need to hide certain elements and show some other elements. So you will see that we're going to hide all this, hide the edit button, hide the add nodes button, and show the all nodes button, and show the text area itself. So for now, let's just add a comment, okay, for this step, and just say show hide elements. So we're going to use a function that we're going to call show hide, which will take some parameters. So I'm going to come back to it in a moment. And then once we show the text area, we're going to make sure that we've got focus inside the text area. So to do this, we're just going to access the text area. Okay. And then use the focus method like this. Okay. Now let's build our show hide function. So let's go to the functions section. Okay. And write our function in there. Okay. So let's define the function using the function keyword, and then it's called show hide. This function is going to take a couple of parameters. It's going to take a couple of arrays. So array 1 and array 2. Okay, so array 1 is going to have all the IDs of the elements that we would like to show. Array 2 is going to have all the IDs of elements that we would like to hide. Okay, so how does it work? So let's start with array 1. So we're gonna look at elements inside array 1. So to access those elements, we're accessing IDs. Okay, so each ID is going to be inside the array. So to access one ID is going to be array or array 1. Okay, and then we're going to use the index corresponding to that element inside our array. Okay, so we would like to show elements showing which IDs are, or with IDs inside array 1. So we're going to use the show method. Okay, and inside our for statement, we're going to start with the first element, which is the elements of index 0, and we're going to continue until the element of index, the length of our array -1. Okay, so I less than array dot length of the array. Okay, and then every time we're going to increment I by 1. Okay, so that's for the first array. For the second array, we're going to do the same thing. The only thing that's going to change is instead of the show method, we're going to use the hide method. Okay, so, and that's going to be array 2. All right, so let's save. Let's go back to our AJAX call. So we'd like to show certain elements and hide certain elements. So let's start with the elements we'd like to show, which will go inside our first array. Okay. So the first one is our text area. Okay, so let's write its ID, which is Notepad. Okay, and then the second element is the All Notes button, and its ID is All Notes. Okay. Now let's move to the second array, which will show the elements that we'd like to hide. Okay. So we're going to be hiding our notes. Okay. So that corresponds to ID notes. Okay. We're gonna hide the button Add Notes. We're gonna hide the Edit button. And also, just in case, of course, the Done button, we're gonna hide that button as well. Okay. So let's save and go to our Create Notes file.